What happens when one of the most respected journalists in television history sits down for what should be a straightforward interview, only to face an unprecedented meltdown that no one saw coming? In just 33 seconds, a single comment would ignite a firestorm that would end with security being called and a guest being physically escorted from the set. This is the story of the interview that shocked millions. Diana Sawyer had seen it all. With decades of experience handling world leaders, celebrities, and some of the most difficult personalities on the planet, she was known for her grace under pressure. Her interviews were masterclasses in professionalism. She knew how to ask the tough questions while maintaining respect and dignity. She never lost her cool. She never raised her voice. And she certainly never had to remove a guest from her studio. Until that day. The interview was supposed to be a major moment. Meghan Markle had agreed to sit down for an in-depth conversation, and the anticipation was enormous. Millions of viewers tuned in, expecting revelations, expecting emotion, expecting drama. But no one expected what was actually about to unfold. Diana Sawyer opened the interview the way she always did, with warmth and professionalism. She welcomed Meghan to the show, thanked her for coming, and eased into the conversation with a few gentle questions. The lighting was perfect. The set was elegant. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. But within minutes, the temperature in the room began to shift. Diana asked her first substantive question. It was fair. It was balanced. It was the kind of question any journalist would ask. You've spoken publicly about feeling isolated. Can you walk us through what that experience was like for you? Meghan's response was immediate and sharp. You know, Diana, I think the problem is that people like you will never understand what it's like to be in my position. You sit here in your comfortable studio, asking your comfortable questions, and you have no idea what it's really like. Diana paused. She had dealt with defensive guests before. This was nothing new. She smiled gently and tried to redirect. I'm here to understand. That's why I'm asking. Help me, and help our viewers. Understand your perspective. But Meghan wasn't interested in redirecting. Your viewers, she said, with an edge in her voice that cut through the studio, are part of the problem. They consume these stories. They judge. They criticize. And they have no idea what's really happening behind the scenes. Diana maintained her composure. I think our viewers are here because they care. They want to hear your side of the story. That's why we're having this conversation. Care? Meghan shot back. They don't care about me. They care about the spectacle. They care about tearing people down. And you, she pointed directly at Diana, you're giving them exactly what they want. The crew behind the cameras exchanged glances. This was not normal. Guests didn't speak to Diana Sawyer this way. But Diana, ever the professional, pressed forward. I understand you're feeling emotional about this, Diana said calmly, but I want to give you the space to share your truth. That's what this interview is for. My truth? Meghan's voice was rising now. You don't want my truth. You want your version of my truth. You want me to fit into whatever narrative you've already decided on. Diana took a breath. Meghan, I haven't decided on any narrative. I'm here to listen. But I do need to ask you questions. That's how an interview works. Don't patronize me, Meghan snapped. I know how an interview works. What I don't appreciate is being treated like I'm some kind of problem that needs to be solved. I'm not treating you that way, Diana replied, her voice still steady and calm. I'm treating you like a guest who agreed to have a conversation. If you'd like to pause and take a moment, we can do that. I don't need a moment, Meghan said. What I need is for you to show me some respect. Diana's expression remained neutral, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or maybe disappointment. Meghan, I have nothing but respect for you. But respect goes both ways. I'm doing my job and I'm doing it fairly. That word, fairly, seemed to trigger something. Meghan leaned forward in her chair, her body language becoming more aggressive. Fairly? You think this is fair? You think sitting here, under these lights, with cameras pointed at me, being questioned like I'm on trial, is fair? You agreed to this interview, Diana pointed out gently. No one forced you to be here. That's the problem with people like you, Meghan said, her voice dripping with contempt. You always have an answer for everything. You always have a way to twist things around and make yourself look like the reasonable one. Diana set down her notes. This was a deliberate move, a signal that she was giving Meghan her full attention. I'm not trying to twist anything. I'm trying to have a conversation. But if you're not comfortable continuing, we can end this right now. Oh, you'd love that, wouldn't you? Meghan said. Then you could tell everyone that I walked out, that I couldn't handle the questions, that I'm difficult and unstable. That's not what I said, Diana replied firmly, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But I will not sit here and be accused of things I'm not doing. I've been doing this job for a very long time, Meghan. I know the difference between asking tough questions and being disrespectful, and I have been nothing but professional with you. The tension in the studio was suffocating now. The crew members were frozen, unsure of what to do. This had never happened before. Diana Sawyer, the unflappable professional, was being attacked by her own guest. Meghan stood up suddenly, startling everyone. You know what? I don't have to sit here and take this. Take what? Diana asked, remaining seated, her voice still controlled. I've asked you a handful of questions. That's all. If that's too much for you, then perhaps you're right. Perhaps you shouldn't be here. Don't tell me where I should or shouldn't be, Meghan shot back. You don't get to make that decision. Diana finally stood, matching Meghan's position, but maintaining her dignified posture. Actually, Meghan, this is my show. And if you're going to continue speaking to me and my team this way, then yes, I do get to make that decision. Your show? Meghan laughed bitterly. Your show is nothing without guests like me. People tune in to see me, not you. That comment hung in the air like poison. The crew audibly gasped. You could see the shock register on faces throughout the studio. No one spoke to Diana Sawyer like that. No one diminished her accomplishments, her legacy, her decades of groundbreaking journalism. Diana's expression hardened. For the first time in the interview, her professional mask slipped just slightly. I've been doing this show since before you were born, she said quietly, but with unmistakable steel in her voice. I've interviewed presidents, prime ministers, and some of the most important figures in modern history. I don't need you or anyone else to validate my work. Then you don't need me here, Meghan said defiantly. You're absolutely right, Diana replied. I don't, and I think it's time for you to leave. Meghan's eyes widened. She clearly hadn't expected Diana to actually ask her to leave. You're kicking me out? I'm ending this interview, Diana clarified. You've been hostile from the moment we started. You've accused me of things I haven't done. You've insulted me and my team. And quite frankly, I've given you more than enough chances to have a productive conversation. But you're not interested in that. So, yes, we're done here. You can't do this, Meghan protested. People are watching. This is live television. Which is exactly why I'm doing this, Diana said calmly. Because I will not allow anyone, including you, to turn my show into a circus. Our viewers deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. So please, gather your things and leave. This is unbelievable, Meghan said, her voice shaking with anger. This is exactly what I was talking about. The moment I stand up for myself, the moment I push back, I'm the problem. I'm the one who has to leave. Diana shook her head slowly. Meghan, standing up for yourself and being disrespectful are two very different things. You can have boundaries without attacking people. You can express yourself without insulting others. But you've chosen not to do that. And now you're facing the consequences of that choice. Consequences? Meghan's voice rose to a near shout. You're threatening me with consequences? I'm not threatening you, Diana said firmly. I'm telling you that your behavior has consequences. And in this case, the consequence is that this interview is over. Now please, leave my set. Meghan looked around wildly, as if searching for support from someone, anyone in the studio. But every face she saw reflected the same thing back at her: shock and disapproval. Even the people who had been hired to support her, to make sure she was comfortable, were looking away. Fine, Meghan finally said. I'll leave, but everyone will know about this. Everyone will know how you treated me. They already know, Diana replied quietly, because they just watched it happen. And they saw exactly who was professional and who wasn't. Meghan ripped off her microphone, nearly breaking the clip in the process. The sound technician winced, but said nothing. She grabbed her purse and started walking toward the exit, her heels clicking sharply against the studio floor. But she couldn't resist one final parting shot. She turned back to face Diana, her expression twisted with anger. You're just like all the rest of them. You pretend to care. You pretend to want to help. But really, you just want to tear people down. You're a fake, Diana. A fake and a fraud. Diana Sawyer, standing tall and dignified under the studio lights, simply looked at Meghan with something close to pity. I'm sorry you feel that way, she said softly. But attacking me doesn't change the fact that you came here, agreed to this interview, and then sabotaged it yourself. I tried to give you a platform. I tried to treat you with respect. But you can't accept respect when you're determined to see enemies everywhere you look. I don't have to listen to this, Meghan spat. No, you don't, Diana agreed. The door is right there. But Meghan still didn't leave. She stood there, trembling with rage, as if waiting for Diana to back down, to apologize, to somehow make this all go away. But Diana didn't move. She simply stood there, waiting patiently for her guest to finally exit. The standoff lasted for what felt like an eternity. The cameras were still rolling. The crew was paralyzed, and millions of viewers sat at home, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Finally, one of the producers stepped forward. Meghan, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the building. Don't touch me, Meghan warned, pulling away. No one's touching you, the producer said calmly, but this interview is over, and you need to go. Meghan looked at Diana one last time, her eyes blazing with fury and something else underneath it all. Hurt, perhaps, or embarrassment, or the dawning realization that she had just made a catastrophic mistake on live television in front of millions of people. You'll regret this, Meghan said, her voice shaking. Diana's response was simple and devastating in its directness. The only person who's going to regret this is you. And with that, Meghan finally turned and stormed out of the studio. The heavy door slammed shut behind her, the sound echoing through the cavernous space. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The silence was deafening. Then Diana Sawyer turned back to the camera. Her hair was still perfect. Her makeup was still flawless. Her composure was completely intact. She looked directly into the lens and spoke to the viewers at home. I apologize that you had to witness that, she said, her voice steady and professional. In all my years of doing this job, I have never had to ask a guest to leave. But I will not tolerate disrespect toward myself or my team. We came here today ready to have an honest, open conversation. But that requires mutual respect. And unfortunately, that was not something our guest was willing to provide. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I want to be clear about something. Asking tough questions is not the same as being unkind. Holding people accountable is not the same as attacking them. And standing up for yourself and your team is not the same as being unfair. What you saw here today was someone who came into this interview looking for a fight. And when they didn't get the fight they wanted, they created one anyway. Diana sat back down in her chair, smoothing her jacket. We had hoped to have a meaningful conversation today. We had hoped to provide a platform for someone to share their perspective. But we cannot do that when we are being accused of malicious intent that simply does not exist. We cannot do that when every question is met with hostility and every attempt at dialogue is treated as an attack. She looked down at her notes, then back up at the camera. I've been fortunate in my career to speak with thousands of people from all walks of life. Some of those conversations have been difficult. Some have been uncomfortable. But they've been productive because both parties came to the table with a genuine desire to communicate. That was not the case today. Diana folded her hands in her lap. I want to thank our viewers for your patience and understanding. I know this is not what you tuned in to see, but I hope it serves as a reminder that respect and civility matter. They matter in interviews, they matter in conversations, and they matter in how we treat each other every single day. In the hallway outside the studio, Meghan was arguing with security. Her voice could be heard even through the heavy doors, though the words were muffled. The crew members inside exchanged glances, but remained professional, staying focused on Diana. We're going to take a break, Diana said to the camera. When we come back, we'll move on to our next segment. Thank you for staying with us. The cameras stopped rolling. The moment they did, Diana let out a long, slow breath. Her shoulders sagged slightly, the only visible sign of the stress she had just endured. The makeup artist rushed over to check her appearance, but Diana waved her away gently. I'm fine, she assured the team. Is she gone? The producer nodded. Security is escorting her out of the building now. She's demanding to speak to you. Absolutely not, Diana said firmly. That interview is over. We gave her every opportunity to have a civil conversation, and she chose not to take it. There's nothing more to discuss. One of the junior producers approached hesitantly. Diana, that was incredible. The way you handled that. I've never seen anything like it. Diana smiled tiredly. I've never had to handle anything like it. In all my years, I've never had a guest speak to me that way. But you can't let people walk all over you, no matter who they are or what platform they think they have. The stage manager called out that they had 5 minutes until they were back on air. Diana used the time to collect herself, to review notes for the next segment, to slip back into the professional persona that had made her a legend in the industry. When the cameras started rolling again, no one watching at home would have known what had just happened. Diana Sawyer was poised, polished, and perfect. She introduced the next segment with the same warmth and authority she always brought to her work. But in living rooms and offices and homes across the country, people were already talking about what they had just witnessed. Social media was exploding. News outlets were scrambling to cover the story. Everyone had an opinion about what had happened and who was in the right. Back in the studio, Diana continued with her show as if nothing unusual had occurred. Because for her, the job wasn't about drama or spectacle. It was about journalism. It was about asking questions and seeking truth and treating people with dignity, even when they didn't return the favor. As the interview that never was continued to reverberate through the media landscape, one thing became crystal clear to anyone who had watched it unfold. Diana Sawyer had not just maintained her professionalism in the face of unprecedented hostility, she had defended it. She had drawn a line and said, clearly and firmly, that there were standards that would not be compromised, no matter who was sitting across from her. The interview had lasted less than 15 minutes from start to finish. But in that short span of time, viewers had witnessed something remarkable. They had seen grace under pressure. They had seen dignity in the face of disrespect. They had seen what happens when someone tries to bully a person who refuses to be bullied. And they had seen exactly why Diana Sawyer had earned her place as one of the most respected journalists of her generation. The empty chair across from Diana remained empty for the rest of the show. No attempt was made to fill it or explain it away. It sat there as a silent testament to what had happened. a reminder that some behaviors have consequences, and some lines cannot be crossed. Diana wrapped up her show the way she always did, thanking her viewers and inviting them to tune in next time. Her voice was warm, her smile was genuine, and her professionalism was unwavering. As the credits rolled and the cameras finally stopped, Diana stood up and removed her microphone. She thanked her crew, praised their professionalism during an incredibly difficult situation, and reminded them that they should all be proud of how they had handled themselves. Then she walked off the set, her head held high, leaving behind a moment that would be talked about for years to come. A moment that proved that respect is not negotiable, that dignity matters, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to engage with chaos. The interview that ended before it really began became one of the most talked about moments in television history. Not because of what was said, but because of what it revealed about character, about professionalism, and about the importance of treating people with respect, even when the cameras are rolling and millions are watching. Diana Sawyer had handled thousands of interviews in her career. She had faced down dictators and celebrities and everyone in between. But this one, this brief and explosive encounter, would stand out as the moment she had to draw the hardest line of her career. And she had done it with the same grace and dignity that had defined her entire career.